You're the only ones here.
Or-
You said 8:30 or 8:40?
Let me see what it said. Monday night, 8:30. Oh, I know what this is. This is the guy that spoke Shabbos at Yek. He spoke Sunday night at Yavna. It is Monday, right?
Oh, I know.
Hello.
Here's Mario, but why don't we hear him? Mario is
Oh.
here.
Mario?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can't hear him.
yeah, Mario?
Yeah.
Ah,
What's wrong? Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Okay, so Monday, is this just for tonight or is this a new change?
No, for tonight only, because yesterday there
Yesterday was.
was something
night.
special in Yavne.
Mhm, right. Mhm.
Where did you guys finish last week? Do you remember?
I think in Perek Vav, but I'm not sure which pasuk.
I think it's either 27 or 28.
Oh, of course,
Yeah.
Bernie's the person to ask.
I have my marker that I put there in the book.
Oh, very good, very good.
We just finished with the angel's wings, right?
Oh, right. So that's pasuk. What did you say?
27.
27. Mm-hmm.
I think that's where we're at about the Kruvim.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Hello, Walter.
Bernie, did you go last night? Bernie?
Where? Oh, yes, that was a very good shear.
You couldn't make it. Did
Sorry
anyone
I didn't
tape
make
it?
it? He's a very good speaker. He really is.
Did he have a large turnout?
The base measures was filled.
Very nice.
It's
Did
like-
anyone tape it? Was it perhaps recorded?
No, I don't think so.
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
But anyway, we're holding. I lost my place.
We
We're just talking about that. Perek Vav Pasuk Chav Zayin, I think, or Chav Ches,
Right.
the Kruvim.
I'm sorry. Where's that?
Bernie, what did he speak about?
Rabbi Cook.
Well, that I know, he's the authority.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the positive aspects and through the ages, how the previous and generations don't want to recognize the state and shouldn't be such a focus on Gomorrah learning, but should be a focus on Tanakh. And what else did he say, Bernie?
Yeah.
What other ones?
Most,
whole-
Tanakh. He was talking about things other than just doing Gemara.
Gomorrah, yeah.
But the yeshivas concentrate
You
on
can
just
bring in
Gemara.
other people. You gotta know
And
the
what's,
whole
what else
history
should
of the
they,
Jewish
what else
people.
should they be focusing on?
What?
What else should they be focusing on?
Tanakh, what else did he say?
Oh, Tanakh, he said Tanakh,
Tanakh and what else?
Musar.
Ethics,
ethics.
Musar,
Ethics.
ethics, I don't know, that you
Yeah.
get a whole broad spectrum of what Yahadut is about and to reach out to the Jewish people and all part of the klal and it's a history. We're all coming back to the land of Israel. It was very interesting.
He has a very good delivery.
Mario should have been there to tape it last night.
Yeah.
I guess in the summertime, people are away, we have fewer participants.
So it's a lot last night. I encouraged him to come back to this year. He wanted to know when we're doing it. So I told him.
You told him, oh, you told him. Maybe he'll show up still. It's only 8:34. Is anybody traveling this summer?
We're in Cabo right now.
Oh,
We're in Cabo, in Mexico.
in Mexico. Oh. So
We
nice.
I wanted the sun. I wanted warmth. I wanted to be at the beach.
You like the beach? Yeah, beach is great. Well, there's Oxnard. Not the
So
same.
it's cold there and ugly. No, no.
Here it's nice and sunny.
What hotel are you in?
It's called the Zadoon. They have a kosher kitchen. And
Oh,
it's,
Oh, wow,
yeah, so it's very convenient.
that's
not-
nice.
Not cheap.
Yeah,
Wait a
Lior is
second.
at
So
the,
is
Lior
this a
is in
hotel?
Waldorf.
Yeah, that was my other choice, but this one, they have a kosher kitchen and you get three meals.
Yeah,
It's
breakfast,
like
lunch,
gourmet.
dinner.
Yeah, it's very-
Really? What's it
very
So
called?
do
The
they
what?
send
The
it to
Zadok?
you, or is there a
Zadok.
dining room?
Zadun, they're in Cancun.
It's a Ritz
Oh,
Carlton.
you're Cabo. Cabo.
Yeah,
So
Nice.
Zadun, Z-A, how do you spell it?
Zadun. I see like
Z-A-D-U.
5 Brooke couples here I see so far.
I mean, it's really 2 hours away by plane. It was really quick,
That's too quick. Uh-huh.
very nice.
And you didn't have
And
to
it's-
bring any food.
No,
No.
not a thing. It's really
Also,
amazing.
we should go. It sounds nice.
that
It's
sounds
probably
very nice.
boiling there.
It's so beautiful here. It's
Yeah.
beyond beautiful.
And the service is
Wow,
great.
I have to get this in. Can you? Okay.
But isn't
so-
it boiling?
No, it was 85 today.
It's hot, but you know, you sit by the shade or the pool is fantastic.
What
Yeah.
about the beach? I like the beach. The
Yeah,
beach
they
is
have-
beautiful.
So
You
you
can't really go in the
can't
water.
swim in the water because
There's
the
a-
tide's very strong.
There's a riptide.
Hmm.
To say nothing about the sharks that are there.
The sharks are farther, I asked her, they're farther north, so Magda's going north tomorrow.
There are no places you can go in the water.
No, not in Cabo,
No,
Top
no.
of very few places where you can go in the
but
water.
it's beautiful.
It's so beautiful. It's so peaceful here. It's
Go to
just-
that island.
And you
Magda
don't
speaks
feel
language.
afraid? You go out of the hotel?
No, No
No.
need.
You can't, you have to, you need security, right?
Well,
You
we're
can't-
going on a boat trip tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it'll be nice. Yeah.
How long
tomorrow-
are you staying?
Till Thursday.
And then we're gonna
Very
cross the
nice.
border. We're gonna run across the border on the way home. And then
Ay,
it
ay,
goes
ay.
up, we'll get benefits. That's what we're gonna do.
No, it's really a beautiful place. Very beautiful.
It's it's a hotel. It's a hotel,
yes.
is it?
Beautiful.
So it's a Ritz-Carlton.
Yes.
Right. So what
So
you do, you
does
pay
that
for the,
do-
mashgiach. You pay for the mashgiach, and then you order off of a set kosher menu.
You have a lot of.
And
firm-
you
a
let
lot
them
of
know
firm
you're
people
coming
there.
before.
There's another 5
I
couples
think there's
here.
maybe 5 couples.
Oh,
up there.
really? Wow.
Yeah,
How did you
Younger.
find out about it?
from young people.
Yeah, that's the only way. We knew nothing about it.
From a few of the young couples over at Yick have been.
Wow. Nice.
Nice.
Also, we gotta try that.
Yeah, Walter.
Is
It's
that
a
good?
hotel that they have a mashgiach and a kosher menu in there.
Write it down.
Cabo.
Zadun with a Z. Z-A-
Zadun, Zadun.
Zadun, Zadun. It's part of the Ritz-Carlton.
Yes.
My kids just came back from Cabo. There's 2 kosher restaurants, Milachim and Fleishik.
Yeah, but this hotel, they have a kosher kitchen in the restaurant.
And the Mishkiach, yeah.
Yeah, they have everything. The Chabad guy's very nice, Rabbi Hershkovich. Very nice.
Yeah, there's a Milachim and a Fleishik restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, in the-
Embers. is the
Where
place.
where is that? Where
In the
is that?
Cabo
one?
down-
Cabo, I
Downtown.
know. I said
In town.
Laura's there right now.
When
Well, that's
Susie and I
fun.
went, you have to have Haagen-Dazs ice cream. That was the only thing.
Right.
We brought food, and there was once a kosher thing there that we went to.
Yeah, but the Chabad rabbi would bring the meal for you for Shabbos. We ordered that when we were in Cabo.
He brings for you, right? Yeah.
It arrived at 5 minutes to Shabbos.
He arrived. Yeah.
Oh, he
There's a
got
different halacha. Right.
That was nice. It was.
Okay, we're gonna buckle up, and it's a little drier material, so we have to sort of push through this. We are finishing up Perek Vav, Pasuk Chaf Tes. And then we're gonna learn tonight Perek Zion, which is the description of the building of Shlomo Melech's palace. So Pasuk Chavtes Ves Kol Kirot Sabayis, we're now still talking about the Beis Hamikdash. The walls of the Beis Hamikdash, Mesev Kala. Let me let Susie in. Susie's knocking at the door. One second.
Okay.
So it was a Zadun, right? Zadun? I forgot already. Zadun? Is that what she said?
I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah, write it down too. I leave nothing to memory. So what is marked as Zadun, Zadun? Are they not there? As a Ritz-Carlton?
So there's called Kira Sabayis Mesav Kala, Pituche Miklot Kruvim V'Timrod. There were designs on the walls, pictures of kruvim and pictures of date palms. Sadi Katomar, yes?
I'm sorry, were they pictures or were they actual figures?
No, they were like
Because it says here, carved figures,
sculptured,
sculptures, right, that kind. Mhm.
figures engraved on the walls.
Oh, so they were pictures then.
Yeah, pictures.
Mhm.
The kruvim in themselves were a sculpture, but these were designs. And Tamar, like Tzadik Katamar Yifrach, a Tzadik shall blossom like a date. The Satmar Rebbe used the date palm as the symbol of the Hasidus.
But tomorrow are palm trees. Palm trees?
Palm trees,
Why did he use them? Why did he use those?
because the word Tzadik Katamar
Oh,
Yifrach.
Sadi Katamar. I'm sorry. Okay.
Tzadik Katamar Yifrach.
Got it.
And you know, in Hasidus, the Rebbe is like the Tzadik. So both it was on the inside of, they were also on the inside and on the outside, both in the Kodesh Kadoshim and also in the Heichal.
I have here that Puturetzisim are open flowers. Yeah, open flowers,
Blossoming flowers,
blossoming flowers. Mhm.
blossoming flowers. Now, Pasuk Lamed, Karka Abayis Sipazot, the floor was inlaid with gold. Lipnima v'lachitzon, both in, the Kodesh Kadoshim and in the Heichal. First, there was cedar wood on the bottom. The karka of the Kodesh Kadoshim did not have cedar wood there. That was just, the wood was put on the floor in order so that the measurement should still be 20 amas. And the wood covering where the gold was put on top, it was in the Heichal. You could see a difference between the Kodesh Kadoshim and the Heichal based on that. Bet Pesach Advir Asad Al Tod Atzei Shemen. The doors that went into the Kodesh Kadoshim were made out of olive wood. Ha'ayil mezuzot chamishit. And
Pentagon shape.
like five-sided. Here's the picture I want to show you. So the doors, it wasn't, the doors open like in a V there. It wasn't a regular four, it wasn't like a square. The Malbim learns differently. The Malbim says that when it says mezuzot chamishit, it's talking about there were 5 openings in the base of Mikdash. That there was an opening to get into the Azara itself. Then there was a chutzner for Kohanim that had its own opening. And then there were 3 openings to the Ulam. And then the 4th was the opening to Kodesh Kadoshim. Excuse me. There's an opening to the Ulam, which is that antechamber. That's the 3rd. It was a door getting into the Heichal itself. And a 5th going into the Kodesh Kadoshim. And that's how the Ralbag explains as well. Pasuk Lamed Beis describes the doors in more detail. Shtei daltos atzei shemen v'kala, these olive wood doors, v'kala aleim, they were also had pictures on it, miklos kruvim v'timros, kruvim and dates, ukturei tzitzim v'tzipazah. They had these blossoming flowers and they were engraved in gold. Vayard ala kruvim v'laturmet et azov. And this gold was overlaid on top of these engraved designs. Lamed Gimel, v'chein asa lepetach ha'heichal. These doors were made to the opening of the Kodesh itself, going into the main room before the Kodesh Kadosh. Also, mezuzot atzei shemen, the posts were olive, me'es revius. This was square, not me see, Lamed Gimel. Right, this was square, wasn't pentagon shaped. Lamed Dalet, Ushtei Daltois Atse Broishim. These doors were cypress wood. Shnei Klaim Adalet Achad Klilim, Ushnei Klaim Adalet Hashanim Klilim. The hinges were rounded. That's what it means by Glilim. So, in summary, the doors of the Heichal were made out of cypress wood. The doorposts were made out of olive wood. The doors of the Kodesh Kodashim were made out of olive wood. And there's only one pair of doors in the Heichal. And the same thing in Kodesh Kodashim. But when Chazal described Bayit Sheni in Masechta Midos, there they say there were pairs of doors. 2 doors in the Heichal and 2 doors going in the Kodesh Kodesh. One was made out of olive wood, one was made out of cypress wood. Lamed Hey. The Kala Kruvim V'Timros U'Pturei Tzitzim V'Tzipei Zav Miyusha L'Mechuker. On the doors were also designs of the kruvim and the palms and the flowers, and there was also gold engraved on them as well. Vayiven et the Chatzer Pnimit. So there was a wall built around the Azara. Means outside of the Heichal building was the Ezras Kohanim, where the Mizbeach is, where they do their work. And the Ezras Yisrael, when Korban Pesach was brought, we had 11 ames in the Azara that Jews, non-Kohanim, could stand in front of the Ulam. And he built walls around it, so it wasn't in the open. There were walls around the Azara. The Gra says that these walls were built both with wood and stone. Heichal, the Kodesh Kodashim, had a ceiling. So when you have a ceiling and walls, so that stabilized everything. But the Azara had no ceiling. The Mizbeach, the smoke went up to Shamayim. And the walls of the Chutzah were very high. So that's why there needed to be a combination, like construction today, combination of, let's say, cement or stone plus wood. Listen to the Gemara from Masechta Rosh Hashanah, Daled Amud Aleph. There's a debate whether Koresh, when the Jews were taken to Babylonia by Nebuchadnezzar, they were there for 70 years. Eventually, Koresh, Cyrus, the Persian king, made a decree that the Jewish people could go back and build the Bayis Shem. Now, the Gemara there debates, was Koresh a tzaddik or not? Maybe initially he was kosher, but then later on he went bad. The Gemara brings a proof that later on he went bad. Because over there, in describing the building of the Beis HaMikdash, it says that they put wood among the stones. Why? His kavanah was, Kidei sheyuchal l'sarfes habayis im yiridu ba Yehudim. Koresh wanted a method to get back at the Jews if they revolted against him. If you have a stone building, it's very hard to burn that down. If you have wood, you'd be able to burn it easier. So the Gemara there asks, what do you mean? Shlomo also made, in this depiction of the building of the walls around the Azara, he also made a combination of wood and stone. So Shlomo Melech did too. So Shlomo made a row of wood, then on top of these row of wood was stone. Koresh made the wood easier accessible. If they lit they had access to the wood much easier. Shlomo also put the wood between rows of stone, sort of on the inside. in order so that the wood would be more fireproof. But Koresh did not do that. Shlomo also covered it in lime so they wouldn't burn, but Koresh did not. So the wood was sort of on the inside, covered in lime, so they wouldn't have, so it would not be easy to burn it. Pasuk Lamed Zayin. Bashana Revi'it Yusad Beit Hashem B'Yerach Ziv. And in the again, it reviews, because we mentioned this at the beginning, that Shlomo laid the foundation for the bias in the 4th year of his reign, in the Chodesh Iyar, like we said before, which is the second
So
month.
why the repetition, geez?
Because look at the next pasuk, Lamed Ches. Uvashana achadesrei v'yerach bul hu achodesh hashmini in Chodesh Cheshvan, which is the 8th month. Right? Chodesh Shvi is Tishrei, Chodesh Shmini is Cheshvan. So now in the 11th year, right? Because if it's giving us a sense of how long it took him to build the bias. Because if it started in the 4th year in the 2nd month and was finished in the 11th year in the 8th month, so it's 7.5 years. Kala Abayisachol Dvarov Mishpatov Vayivneu Shavashonim. Now it's really 7.5, not 7.
So why did they round it out? Why did they?
So first of all, Rashi says, why is it called bull? So the grass begins to dry up, I guess, in the fields then, and they roll it up for the animals in the house. So the bala is bull. The Radak says it's because the rains start in Cheshvan, and like a mabul, right? A flood, mabul, bull. That's
So
interesting.
sorry. The Mayamlo says that from the time, well, the floods from Noach started in Cheshvan, and thereafter, every year there were torrential rains during this time. When Shlomo completed the Beit HaMikdash, he prayed to Hashem that that intense rain would be terminated. And so the mem was removed. Mem stands for 40. The 40 days that originally where there was flooding was eliminated. And that's how bull
From Mabul.
from Mabul. Right.
But here the daven that the 40 days should be removed.
Right.
Now we're going to see later on in Perek Ches, there was a Chanukah Sabayis, but that was done in Tishrei. So the question is, how does that fit in here? And let's go into this cheshbon of the 7 years. It was really 7.5 years. The other question that Meforshim asked, Tanakh is not a math book. We can count. If it says it was started in the 4th year and ended in the 11th year, we know it took 7 years to build. I have to tell us it was 7 years. The Gemara asks this all the time. Like it sometimes will say Arba Avos Nezikin. So the Gemara asks this, and it lists the 4 types of damages where you can damage something. The Gemara there asks the same question. What is this? A math book? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, we know it's 4. Why do you have to mention 4? So the number comes to teach us something. Same thing here. Why did it have to mention? So mention it. So the Radak says, don't think that Shlomo was lazy. He worked throughout the 7 years to the binyan. That's why they summarized and gave the number. And the 6 months, some explain, the Ralbag explains, 7 years was the real hard work. The 6 months were things that were just, let's say, decorative. When we described all these, pictures, that's what's done over the 6 months, but not the foundations. Then, and he brings a raya that the Chanukah Sabayis occurred in the Chodesh Tishrei before Cheshvan of that year. Not that they did it after, because the Iker Binyan was finished already it was even finished b'chodesh Ziv in ER. Only minor things were left. So they didn't wait to finish the minor things. They did the Chanukah Sabayis already in Tishrei of that year. Now the Yalkut Shimoni learns that Chanukah Sabayis was the following year, after everything was done. Okay, but all of this is to show that Shlomo Zrizin b'mitzvahs. In the next Perek Zion, we're going to learn that it took Shlomo HaMelech 13 years to build his palace. Shlomo rules for 40 years, from the age of 12 to the age of 52. He spent 20 years on a construction project, 7 years the Beis HaMikdash, 13 years his bias. Literally half of his life, half of his reign, he was a builder. So the Zrizus he showed for the Beis HaMikdash that it took him almost half the time, because he was working hard and fast to complete the Beis HaMikdash.
Ernie, does it indicate anywhere exactly what his role was? Obviously, he must have had people, who he assigned, to manage, etc.
Yes.
Does it describe it anywhere, in terms of the hierarchy?
Well, we learned last time that it says Shlomo built it, because the person who gives the impetus, the person who finances it, the person who, remember, he had all of the plans from David HaMelech. So he's given the credit as he's the builder,
Right.
but I'm sure, of course, he had architects, and we had 70,000 these workers and 80,000 those workers.
Mhm.
He was the king. He didn't do it all himself. Okay, so let's go Perek Zion, and let's see how he built his palace, and why are we given such detail in this? Pasuk Aleph. It's interesting. We've always been learning many parallel psukim from Divrei Hayomim, that we have the same stories in Shmuel and Melachim, and it's also recounted by Ezra in Divrei Hayomim. It's interesting. The details of this Perek Zion, about his palace, nothing is said about it in Divrei Hayomim. Silent. So Pasuk Aleph is Beso Bana Shlomo Shloshes Rishona by Chalas Kol Beso. Took him 13 years, and we're going to see that
Ernie, do you think there's no mention in Divrei Hayomim because he was building it for his own pleasure? It's his palace, or for the Melech, rather than for the Bnei Yisrael, for the Kohol. And Divrei Hayomim is more focused on Bnei Yisrael as a people.
Yeah, but we're going to see that this bias was the people's house. They came there for mishpat, and they came, so it wasn't just his private domain. Klal Yisrael was there almost every day, and we'll see what he built. By the way, the Radak says he only built it for 2 years. So why does it say 13? He didn't finish it until the 13th year of his reign. But anyways, according to Pshat, it took him 13 years. And there's something called the Beit Yar HaLevanon. There's something called the Ulam, which is translated as the house of the Lebanon forest. There's something called the Ulam HaAmudim, which is like the room of the pillars. Then Ulam HaKisei, like the throne room. Ulam HaMishpat, which is the Mishpat room. Then it's going to be Beito, like the White House also has private quarters. Beito Ubeit Ishto. And we're going to learn about all of these various elements of the Bible. It says in Psikta Rabosi, which is Midrashim, it says Mizbor Shir Chanukos Abayis Ledovi. We say it every morning in Psukei Zimra. So Kosav Echad Omer in Shmuel Beis it says Ha'atat tivnei li bayis l'shivti. One pasuk seems to imply that David was going to build the bayis. Then in Divrei Yomim it says, Lo ata tivnei li habayis l'shavis. You will not be the one to build it. Ma'ukach, heich ani mekayim shnei haksuvim. The Medrash asks, how are we going to reconcile these two psukim? Ela lo ata tivnei li habayis, she'ein ata boneh oto. Ha'ata tivnei shebincha yibaneh oto. You have to make it work out that your son will build it. Now, what's the pshat? Ata ikdamta kvod chalikvodi. David HaMelech initially said, how can it be that I live in a palace and Hashem doesn't have a place to live? So David put the covenant of Hashem before his own covenant. Shlomo bin chamagdim kvodi lichvodo. Shenemar uvashana achad esrei b'yerach bulu achodesh hashmini kolo habayis v'achar kach v'ezbesu b'nei Shlomo. In fact, David HaMelech had built his house before he started worrying about the Beis Hamikdash, because he said, "Oh, remember he called Nasan Navi, and he says, I feel bad. I'm living in a nice palace, and look, the Aron is in a tent. That's not good. But in reality, David built his palace before he started worrying about the Beis Hashem. Shlomo corrected that. That's why the first parak talked about the building of the Bais, and that happened chronologically. And only now we talk about the palace of Shlomo. Now, the Beis Hamikdash was higher than his palace. The Beis Hamikdash was built in the highest place. It says, "Vayoridu es hamelech." This is in Melachim Beis Yud Aleph. "Vayoridu es hamelech mibeis Hashem." So they brought the Melech down from the Beis Hashem. Vayavo Beis Hamelech. So that's a raya that the Beis Hamikdash is on a higher plane. It says in Yirmiyahu, "Vayalumi Beis Hamelech Beis Hashem." So physically, the Beis Hamikdash was on a higher place. Now, we're going to go through immense detail in the building of Shlomo Melech's private palace. Why do we need this? So Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky in the Emes Liyaakov says, we're going to see a lot of chokhmah in how he builds it. We're going to see the calculation of pi, 3.1, whatever, the pi. We're going to see it from Yamshel Shlomo. Other geometry, calculus, other chokhmas are going to see in the how Shlomo constructed things. There's also some comparisons between what his bias looked like and the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, pasuk Beis. First thing that he built, by even his Beis Yar Halbanon, he builds this place called the House of the Forest of the Lebanon. This is big. Mea ama orko, 100 amas long, 50 ama arach, bigger than the Beis Hamikdash. Ushloshim ama komaso, 30 amas tall. Al arba turei amudei arazim, 4 rows of cedars. Ukruzas arazim ala amudim, and there were also cedar beams on top of the pillars. Machlokas Rishonim, Rashi and the Ralbag. That's exactly what this is. It had to be very large. The Beis Hamikdash doesn't have to be large because the only people who go in there are the Kohanim. But here, Gans Klal Yisrael is going to come in. So they're going to need more room. Number 2, we read the pasuk in Divrei Yomim, Hakol biksav miyad Hashem ala yiskil. Shlomo was given very exacting dimensions of what he was supposed to build. So he didn't have a right to do it as big as he wanted. But for his own private use, and in order to bring the people in, he had to build it very, very big. So we won't go into this machlokes Rashi and Ralbag regarding the, how the pillars were. But this, the Radak says, this was not built in Yerushalayim. He says, "Mining Melachim haya bizmana ulivnot bayit bayar, litkar sham b'mei hakayitz." They would build a house in the forest to cool off in the hot summer days. That's why there were chalanot merubin. There were a lot of windows to bring the air in. And there was a known forest in Eretz Yisrael called Lebanon. This was like a summer vacation home for him. It wasn't his palace where he lived on a regular basis. Other people, Rashi, later on, the Gra and Rashi, learned, no, this was in Yerushalayim, near the Beit HaMikdash. And since it was near the Mikdash, it says in Gemara Yuma, Lamed Tes Amud Beis, Amar Rav Yitzchak ben Tabloi, Lama nikra shmo Levanon. The Beit HaMikdash, one of its nicknames is Levanon. Shemalbin avanoseim shel Yisrael. It causes the sins of the Jewish people to whiten. Okay. Pasuk Gimel. The Safun Ba'eres. There was a roof again of cedar, Mimal alatzlos hashelamudim, which was above these beams that were on top of the pillars. Arba'im b'chamisha, 45, I guess, pieces of wood. Chamisha asar atur, each row had 15. Rashi and the Gra learn that it was 2 stories. And the Radak and others learn it was 1 story. And you have to Rashi and Gra have to explain these psukim based on the fact that it was 2 stories. But the other one doesn't have to deal with it because it's just one ceiling. I think you can see a picture based on Rashi on page 65 in the art scroll, where like on the bottom, it was just like open, completely open, and the second floor had windows. Dalid ushkufim shlosha turim. Shkufim are the chalonot, the windows, 3 rows of windows. Umachzal mechza sholosh pamim. And the windows were on opposite sides of each other, exactly matching, like parallel, right? One wall to the other wall. Now, according to Rashi and the Gra, they didn't even have a wall on the bottom floor. It was just open, like a patio. All you saw were pillars. On the second floor, then they needed windows. Now, the Abarbanel, very interesting, brings Josephus Flavius. Shabayit hazayu bo shtei minei v'sidrei dirot. Achat lamata v'ach lamal. He says it was 2 stories. V'chodir mem hayu chadarim are many rooms. V'dirat shalmata hayu absamim mikominei machlim. Like the bottom stuff was where they stored things, perfumes, foods. And then Vayabayit Acheret Mehem Kol Klei Zayin, the weapons. Some made of metal, some made of gold and silver, that were made for decoration, according to him, by Shlomo. Later on, the Pesukim are going to tell us that he made all these kalim, and these were stored here, according to the Josephus. And you would see that when the people would come, they would see on the bottom floor all the wealth that Shlomo Melech had in his storehouses. The upper area, which was divided into 4, so that was, we said, one was where the king slept and ate, and he had areas where he met with his officers, and they would come and there would be an eitzah given. Then there were rooms to eat and to drink, to sleep. Hey, v'chol hapsachim v'hamezuzos revuim shaket. The doorways had 4-sided frames, and again they were opposite each other. Umul mechzel mechzel sholosh pamim. Right, the 2 that were parallel, And then the two sides were also parallel. So the doors and windows were symmetrical. So in summary, according to one shot, it's one story, made out of cedar walls. There were windows on both sides, again, opposite each other. And it was very cool in there. There were three doors to go in. According to the other shot, it was two stories. Like we said, the bottom was like a patio without walls, and the second story had windows. Okay. Now that took care of one of the constructs. Pasuk Vav. Ves ulam ha'amudim. This is now called the building of pillars. Asa chamishim ama arko. This is smaller, 50 amas in length, 30 ama rachbo, ulam al pneihem. It was like an antechamber to go in, va'amudim va'av al pneihem. There were pillars to go in, like a Beis Shar, like a watchman's area. This building was placed in front of the cedars, this Beis Yar al Vanon. And in front of that was another ulam, like you see in palaces. Some say they didn't bring two, they only brought one. Now the third construct, Pasuk Zayin, ulama kisei asher yishpat sham. I would call it the throne room. But when Shlomo, served as the judge, and the people would come and ask questions, he would go into that room. That's one of the tafkidim of the Melech, to make mishpat. Ulama mishpat asa. The safun ba'erez, its walls, and it was ceiling by cedars. Me'akarka to karka, from ground to ground. Ches. Ubeiso asher yoshev sham. Then it's the house that he lived in. Chatzer acheres, mi beis la'ulam, kimazeh azeh. This is the way it was. Ubayis yaseh lebaspar shalakach shloma k'ulam hazeh. So he had a place where he slept, where he ate. He had a special courtyard in front of his house, separate from the ulam of the Beis Yar al Vanon. And then it says he built a special house for Paro.
He always mentions her. Why? Like she's something special.
So good question. So why does it say here? By the way, it says Lamaisa in Divrei Yomim that he did not end up building a house for her. What does it say in Divrei Yomim? Ves bas Paro he'ela Shlomo me'ir David labayis asher bano ki amar lo teshev isha li beveis David melech Yisrael ki kodesh hema asher bali an aron Hashem. I'm not going to build her house near the Beis Hamikdash. So here it says he built a palace for her. When Lamaisa, he didn't do it. So it sounds like he wanted to build one, but in the end he didn't. So Barbara,
I'm sorry. I remember vividly, I don't know if it's accurate. Was it because he never told her she could not serve her gods, her avodah zarah? He never gave her that boundary. So could that be because he didn't want her near, he wanted her separate? I don't remember learning that a long time ago.
No, we did learn, we went into great depth that when he decided to marry Basparo, that laid the foundations for the Churban by his Rishon. Remember, it's viewed.
I don't remember that. Sorry, no.
Okay, so we learned initially, Shlomo Melech had good intent, as we're going to learn again tonight.
He did it politically. It was a political move, right? Okay.
He actually did it religiously. As we've said multiple times before, Shlomo viewed his reign as Yemosa Mashiach. And in part of Mashiach is Vaviotim el Harkochi, V'simachtim b'veit tfilati ol toeh, that all people are going to come and worship at the Beit HaMikdash. Shlomo HaMelech married 1,000 women. He wanted to be makarev all of them to Yahadus. This was his kavanah. But they ended up worshiping Avodah Zarah. So it was a bad thing in the end. And it was Af V'chema on the day he married Basparo. So you are remembering that we went through this in depth with that the marrying Basparo is a problem for Shlomo Melech, even though his intent was good. And it sounds like here also, the Navi is telling us that he intended to build a bias for her, but in the end, he didn't do it. So asks the Meforshim, if in the end, Shlomo didn't build a bias in Ir David, why does this Perek have to tell us his machshava, which didn't take place? So again, we go back to, it goes back to Perek Gimel Pasuk Aleph, which told us that he married Bas Paro. And I'm going to read it. Shekol kavona Shlomo b'vinyan beis mikdash u'v'nesias Bas Paro haisa kedei lekabetz et kol goy haaretz el Hashem. Shlomo HaMelech wanted to bring all of the goyim who at that time were not worshiping God to the worship of one God. V'shiyeh beit hamikdash beit tefillah l'chol ha'amim. V'chashav shal yedei nesiot nashim shel hagoyim yuchal lekarev otam el Hashem. He was trying to be a makarev person. V'chol kavanato b'zeh hayta l'shem shamayim. V'kan magid lanu ha'pasuk shachshav b'shad binyan beit hamikdash u'beit hamelech Ratza latetet bat paro be'ir David. Da'aya merkaz l'chol habayim l'Yerushalayim lavot sham et Hashem. And that's going to help to be makarev the people. And that was part of his grand plan. And Rav Schwab says we see the tzidkis and the godless of Shlomo HaMelech, that he built his house right next to where he lived, right next to the place that he's going to do mishpat. So when people come into his house, they'd have to pass by the place of the Sanhedrin and the place where he's adjudicating people to show what his hashkaf in life was, that he's going to live his life al yedei dinei HaTorah. Pasuk Tes. Kol eila avonim yikaros kemidos gozis. He also used precious stones, huge ones, kemidot gozit, like the size of cut stone, migorot b'magrei b'baitu mechutz, and they were smoothed on the inside and the outside, and they were placed u'misadat tfachos michutz arachotz gdoilo. They were lined against the wall of the house, as well, sticking out from the wall, to show the wealth of Shlomo HaMelech. Umiyusad avadim yikarot avadim dolot, and these were like foundation stones, large ones. Avnei esra amot va'avnei shmona amot. Some were 10 amos, some were 8 amos. Umilmala avanim yikarot kemidot gazit va'ores. And above were other stones and cedar trees. This is the walls above the foundations. Initially, we were talking about the foundation stones, and now we're talking about the walls and the ceiling. These were all made of cedar wood, like he built the base of Mikdash. V'chatzer agdoilo saviv shlosha turim gazit. There was a large courtyard.
Sorry, Ernie, what pasuk are you on?
12. I know they all sound the same. There was a big courtyard around the building, which had walls. Also, 3 rows, shlosha turim gazit, 3 rows of stone. The turkruta, there is also 3 rows of cedars. B'lachatzar beit Hashem apnimit u'lolam habayit. The same way here, there's a comparison made to the way stones and cedars were used when they built the base of Mikdash. So here we're given a hint that the building of the base, the private palace, is going to be done with the same kavanas that he did in building the base of Mikdash. Now, we're not given as much detail in his private palace as we did in the base of Mikdash, because that's not a nevuah that's needed for generations. Only nevuahs that are needed for future generations is written. But all these other things that were done, there was no special need to write it the generations. But some things were mentioned for us. Why? Why did we know? Why did we need to be told even the detail we are told about in the building of his palace? Because the Malchus of Yehuda is not like Queen Elizabeth, which is just to rule over the nation, their nation. This is Malchus of Hashem. He's a Shaliach of Hashem. He's supposed to conduct his affairs according to the Torah Kedosha, and to conduct the affairs of the Jewish people according to the Torah. So he built his house near the Beit HaMikdash. So everything in his life and his rule will be leaning on the Beis Hashem, and his whatever he does will be al Dvar Hashem. And that the people should understand that all of his acts are being done not out of a whim, but al pi Torah. So therefore, these other batim that we built, the Beit Yar al-Vanon and Ulam HaKisei and Mishpah, where all the people are gathering, we are given the detail of how to do it. And that it was also instructed by Hashem how to do it. Now, his private chambers, the Navi doesn't have to go into detail. That we don't need to know. The public places, yes. Says the Netziv. The Netziv, the Tzvi Yehuda Berlin was the Rosh Yeshiva in Volozhin. He's the one in 1892 made the decision to close the Volozhin Yeshiva because they wanted to start teaching Russian. And he closed the Volozhin Yeshiva. The Netziv was a strong Zionist. He had two sons. One was Chaim Berlin. Chaim Berlin Yeshiva is named after one son. The other was Rav Meir Berlin. Meir Berlin, who changed his name to Meir Bar Ilan. Meir Bar Ilan was the president of Mizrahi, the United States, in 1920. And Bar Ilan University is named after Meir Bar Ilan, Meir Berlin, the son of the Netziv. Among the Netziv's work was the Emek Dover, which is a beautiful modern Perush on Chumash. I'm going to read the Emek Dover from Shmos, Chafei. Kol Tira Mishkan Shebetorah. When we're given Parshas Truma, Tetzaveh, Yakel, Pekudei, you might all be asking, why are we going into the Shulchan has to be this big and the Oren has to be this big, how many Ames and everything to a detail? What is this all about? Says the Netziv. This is Eino Stam Lagid Lanu Mayu Tzuros Kol HaKelim Shebemishkan. So Shemagid Lanu HaTorah, the Chol Protei HaMishkan, Mechavnin Neged Kol Protei HaOlam Shebara Hashem Yisbarach. The way the Mishkan is laid out, this is supposed to remind us of how Hashem created the universe. V'tziva Hashem sheyasu tor kol ha'olam b'vinyan ha'mishkan v'kelav. That the way the Mishkan is laid out in its kelim is the way He created the universe. That's why He says Vasulu Mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. It says in Medrash, Haya b'tzalel sheyodei haya b'tzalel letzaref et ha'otiyot shebahem nivra ha'olam b'chachma u'v'tvuna u'v'das. B'tzalel, the architect of the Mishkan, knew how to combine letters the same way that a Kodesh Baruch Hu, we say, Nistakil Boraisa Ubore Alma. What does that mean by that? Kodesh Baruch Hu looked in the Torah and created the universe. He created the universe with olive bays, with the letters of olive bays. Each thing, Adam, shore, each thing is created through the tziruf of these oisiyos, using Chachma, Bina, Das, Chabad. What's Chabad? Because we have 7, this is not the Netziv, I'm just explaining. We have 7 spheros. Malchus, Gvura Chesed, Netzach Hod, Yisod Malchus. There's 7 uspijim. Each one of the 7 represents one of the 7 midos. These have been misakin already. The avos, including Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, the David, brought these midos into the world. But Chochma, Bina, V'dat, there's 10 spheros. We only have 7. Mashiach is going to come and complete Chochmah, Bina, and Das. That's why the Haftorah that we learn, Shmini Shel Pesach, Perak Yud Aleph of Yeshayahu, says, Umala Hashem, b'chochmah v'bina v'das. We say that in the Ribbon Shel Olam of Yontif, when we open up the Aron before Brich Shmei. So we need Chochmah, Bina, v'das to be able to do this. Says the Netziv, V'akol kedei she'yedal lechaven ha'maisa. U'min hastam gam Shlomo Melech kiven kavonos nistoros. Shlomo Melech had hidden kavonos. Bibinyan Beis Yaral Vono, Ushar Binyan of all of this is what he built that we described tonight. Va'af derubam eina yeduim lanu, says in the Netziv, we don't understand this. Ach eze mehem nuchal l'sha'er. The Netziv says, we could understand the following. L'moshel, Godel Beis Yaral Bavano, the dimensions of that cedar palace, Hayamea Ama Orcho, 100 amas length, 50 amas rochbo, 50 amas wide, 30 amas kamosa. Ha'orach v'rochav hayashava im orach v'rochav ha'mishkan. The length and the width of that Yar al-Vanon was the same as the length and the width of the Mishkan and the Midbar. V'hakomai tashav im gova Beis HaMikdash. The height was the same as how high the Beis HaMikdash is. So you see, there's a parallelism. Says the Shmos Rabbah, "Begimel dvar malalo nivra oilam, bechachma yasud eretz konen shamayim betvuna bedato." That's we're the next pasuk is. Let's say this for next week. Okay, this will be an introduction to what we'll learn next week. It was, it wasn't.
Did you
tell
tell
them
them
dry.
ahead of time?
No, I mentioned to them it might be dry, but it wasn't that dry.
Maybe other people.
What do you say?
It's fine.
Okay, we have this discussion a little later. Let's try. Okay.
Okay, anybody have any comments or questions or other things they want to say that we didn't speak about? Okay,
No.
so next week we'll be back to regular time, Sunday night at 8:30.
Okay, shkach.
Oh, yeah.